Hello there, peoples! If you're watching this, you likely just came from my top 10 Transformers TCG battle cards video. If you didn't and wondering what the heck we're talking about, today is the 1 year anniversary of the game being out in North America. So today we are discussing the top 10 battle and character cards from the game so far. Just as sort of a look back and see what's been good so far and just kind of reminiscing about the fun times over the past year. So. I mentioned this in the battle card video, but if you want to see me talk more about Transformers, I have a competitive analysis blog for the game called Cybertron Daily that I'll link to in the description. And also, there are plenty of other channels on YouTube that cover this stuff. Wreck and Rule, TCG Rollout, Lossy Plays. There's just a ton some I can't even think off the top of my head right now. But there's a lot of coverage on YouTube, so go check all those guys out. Great stuff. But back to the list. The rules are the same as last time. All cards are on the table, including the weird promos that were given out at conventions. So without further ado, let's get started with some honorable mentions. So we have three different versions of Bumblebee here. Trusted Lieutenant, Courageous Scout, and Legendary Warrior. Trusted Lieutenant has some great stats and great cycling abilities with scrapping in action to draw extra cards, but it really hasn't found its niche yet, so that's why I'm putting it here. Courageous Scout is a nice utility, just battler in general, because of the ability to trigger a second white icon, but similar to Trusted Lieutenant, just hasn't found his niche. And then Legendary Warrior is a great lone wolf, but here's the thing. Unless you're playing like a Battle Master or a Weaponizer, you don't want your own characters getting KO'd, and Bumblebee kind of encourages that, so it's a bit of a risky play, so that's why I threw him here. Thrust is a great character if you can put a grenade launcher on him, he's especially good with RC, but really that's the only good thing right now. Maybe we'll see something else in the future that is good with him, but for now, really just he's okay, but we got to figure out more about what we can do with him. Sludge. Sludge with I Still Function is still just hilarious just to heal all your damage, especially with Volcanicus, just because you're like, oh, I have 55 damage. Oh, look, I bring back Sludge. I Still Function. Or I Still Function. Sludge. Healed. Boom. Deal with it. That is hilarious. Speaking of Dinobots, Grimlock with a Wave 1 version is on here. Being able to hand out bolds to your other Dinobots is great. Having a trample effect is great. So it's just a great attacker in general. Bit limited just because, again, he really only works well with Dinobots. And then finally we have Fire Drive, which he's been showing up in quite a few top decks at this point, but he's still a little unproven, so we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. So now on to the actual list. We'll start off at number 10 with Wave 1 RC, who is pretty much the epitome of a glass cannon. Because you get her attack up to like 5 or 6, then she starts becoming a major threat. And that's pretty easy with like Grenade Launcher and other attack boosts and stuff like that. But the problem is she has 1 defense and 9 health, which makes her extremely vulnerable to not only attack damage, but direct damage, and it just becomes an issue. But if you play your cards right, pun not intended, she becomes a major threat. And I've actually managed to successfully do this with my Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend Ransack RC deck. We've seen several top players manage to do it in 4-wide decks. There's just so many ways you can get RC to work, which is why I put her here, but her vulnerability to damage does knock her down a few spots. Number 9, we have Megatron Decepticon Leader. Probably the best utility or general attacker without like getting to like Optimus Prime levels of attacking. He's only got 4 attack in bot mode and only 2 in alt mode, but he's got Pierce 3 base in bot mode, which we don't see too often on characters. We got an upgrade scrapping skill in alt mode that also allows you to cycle dead cards in your hand, and you have Fusion Cannon of Megatron as an option, plus Hunker Down to armor yourself up. So just everything on Megatron blends together to create a really powerful package that can both punch hard and defend hard if necessary, and that's why I put him here. Number 8, we have Ransack, who basically is kind of a glass cannon, kind of isn't, because his attack is based off how much damage he has on it. So if you like play something like One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, that becomes a really major boost for Ransack, and in fact I've done that multiple times with the deck I mentioned earlier with Optimus Prime, Ransack, and RC. On top of that, you put an Energon Axe on him, it's just instantly good because you have like 5 or 6 attack, plus the 3, plus Pierce 2, and Ransack just becomes insane. On top of that, he's got 3 defense in bot mode, which is just great for a 6 cost in general, but the fact that it makes Ransack so resilient to damage after you started damaging him he's just so good as a great general attacker, and he's only 6 stars, so it's an amazing thing to put in there. And on top of that, this is something I've been experimenting around with the deck. This isn't a reason for him being on the list, but you can untap him with Private Tote, and then it just gets hilarious. So, that's at Ransack at number 8. Number 7, we have another Battle Master. I say another, but this is the only Battle Master on the list. We have Lionizer. Fire Drive, he still is a bit unproving just because his skill's a little wonky. With Lionizer, it gives Bold 4. In weapon mode, it gives plan 1 in weapon mode. He has bold 4 innately in bot mode, so you have a pretty decent attacker, even though he has 0 attack when he's in bot mode. And once he does get KO'd, one of your characters gets beefed up insanely. So this is something that we've already proven is reliable, whereas Fire Drive is kind of a new effect. So that's why I put Lionizer here over Fire Drive. At number 6, we have Scrapnel, who is probably the best tank in the game right now, just because he can't take more than 3 damage from an attack if he's in bot mode. And on top of that, he has 3 defense in alt mode, so if you really need to stop all damage, just flip to alt mode and hope you have a bunch of blue icons on hand. And if you do need to take damage for Energon Axe or something, just flip into bot mode, take the damage, put an Energon Axe on there, and you're good. And then there's always a bunch of healing effects that could pop up with Insecticons, like with Swarm, in a blue Insecticon deck or something like that. So there are options to get that damage off and just make Scrapnel an insane tank. Plus, he's only 7 stars, which isn't too bad. Number 5, we have Wheeljack, Wave 1 specifically. This is just great. He gets Bold 3 if he has a weapon in his scrap pile. He has a cycling effect in alt mode. 5 attack base in bot mode. You put a grenade launcher into him, that's 9 attack, and then it gets scrapped, and then you have Bold 3, and then you do a bunch of other shenanigans, and he just gets powered up really freaking quickly. And then with all the other car support that we have with Prowl, Start Your Engines, Turbo Boosters, he could get up to pretty insane amounts of damage, and I've easily seen him punch for 13 or 14 damage. So if you're doing that kind of damage, you need a spot on the list. And going off that, at number 4 we have Nemesis Prime, who his bot mode skill really isn't utilized. His alt mode skill is actually pretty good, but just him in general he's just a great attacker. 7 attack in bot mode, 16 health, a pretty good defense value. Sure, he's 12 stars, but with that kind of power, you're gonna expect a high star cost. And again, you really don't care because you're either running him with 2 other characters that pretty much you would run with any 12 cost and are pretty good attackers like RC and Ransack or something like that, or you're running him with Optimus Prime or something like that. So no matter how you build it, he's just great in whatever he does, and that's why he inherited the 12-star cost, and that's why he's number 4. Number 3, we have a really cheap character. We have Flame War, and this is because if you look at pretty much any top deck list from the early days of the competitive, you'll see Flame War everywhere. Her ability to dish out Bold 1 is great, because Bold 1 on its own is not good, but when you spread Bold 1, it becomes really good, just because you don't have to dedicate it to a specific character. You can just put it out there, and then there's more bold on the table. So if you pull off or if you play an all-out attack, or your opponent is tapped out, you get that bold across the table. And then the same thing with Tough One in bot mode. You just spread that around, and it's just much better than just an individual Tough One. Because again, individual Tough One, it's not that good on its own. Once you start spreading it out, it's good. So basically, any sort of bold or tough effect, as long as it's not a single character getting bold or tough 1, it's good. That's why is Flame War so good. Plus, she's only a 5 cost, so you can fit it into a lot of teams as long as you aren't running a 13 and a 12 cost. So that's why she fits in here. Just a great utility character. And plus, not too bad of an attacker either. And 10 health on a 5 cost is great. Number 2, we have General Optimus Prime, a really flashy star from Wave 3. He provides Bold 1 and Tough 1 to everyone in alt mode, similar to Flame War, and he gives himself Bold 1, Tough 1, and Focus 1 in bot mode, so he can either play as a support character or an attacker. Now, sure, the 11-star cost is a bit annoying, but you can work around that. So he's decently cost for what he offers. He provides a support effect, good stats, and he can attack if necessary. That's what makes him so good. But the number 1 undisputed character, you probably saw this coming, it's Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend. And I know some may argue, well, he's not seeing as much play. General Prime is seeing more play. Here's my argument to that. Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend and General Optimus Prime are sort of like Joe Montana and Steve Young. Sure, Steve Young was a good quarterback when Montana got shipped off to Kansas City, but are you seriously going to argue that Young was a better quarterback than Montana? No, of course not. Montana was undefeated in the postseason, undefeated in Super Bowls, and is easily in the running with Brady for best quarterback of all time, whereas Young really only won one Super Bowl on his own and was good really only after Montana left. Same thing with this. Optimus Prime has been consistently better and has shown up more frequently. General Prime is good. I'm not going to deny that, but he hasn't had the time to show that he is better than Optimus or than Battlefield Legend. Battlefield Legend is still just so freaking good. 8 attack, highest attack on a non-combiner. 2 defense for a 13 cost, which we don't see too often. 3 defense in alt mode, having the ability to recover actions, being able to play actions after you attack for extra attack or extra upgrade scrapping to deal with force field. There's just so much in this package that is good. Again, 13-star cost, but you can work around it. You can find really good teammates for him because he really goes with anything. Pair him with Nemesis Prime, pair him with General Prime, pair him with Ransack and RC. Pair him with a Battle Master and another character. You can fit basically anything with him, and that's what makes him so good. He retains his ability to just smash through everything while being able to work with anything, and that's not a combination we see very often. And that's why he takes the undoubted #1 spot. And I don't care what you say, you cannot change my mind on this, but the rest of the list, you could probably change my mind on. So if you disagree with any of that, go ahead and discuss it in the comments, but please keep it civil. I don't need to be breaking up any flame war, or yeah, any flame wars. So if you enjoyed this, you know standard YouTube protocol. I'll have a link in the description to the battle card video if you haven't watched that yet, as well as my competitive TCG blog. I promise eventually the Armada Clone War stuff will come out, but I just needed to fix a couple of issues, and plus I wanted to get this video out on the anniversary of the Transformers TCG being released. So that's really all I have to say for today. So hopefully you enjoyed this little ramble of mine. Peace out.